panel discussion, which is on technology setting vision for digital transformation, how to integrate the old with the new digital world. I would like to welcome the moderator first, Mr. K. Vaidiswaran, the strategic consultant in e-commerce. Mr. K. Vaidiswaran is known as the father of e-commerce in India. He founded India's first online shopping company, indiaplaza.com, in 1999 and pioneered India's e-commerce industry. He also co-founded the Fab Mall chain of supermarkets, which was subsequently acquired by the Aditya Birla Group and rebranded as More chain of stores. Mr. Vaidi currently consults with leading global brands in the areas of e-commerce and omni-channel retail. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause for Mr. K. Vaidiswaran, who will be the moderator for the panel discussion. For the panel, we have first Mr. Manish Gupta, who is the co-founder of Unicommerce eSolutions Private Limited, a technology startup in field of e-commerce backend solutions. Their order management, warehousing, and multi-channel solutions are used by almost all leading e-commerce websites in the country. He has over 16 years of rich experience in internet and startup space and worked very closely with SME merchants in the country. Prior to this, he has had a long stint with IndiaMart.com and instrumental in evolution of IndiaMart from a startup to a leading marketplace. I would request Mr. Manish Gupta as well to please join. Next, we have Mr. Sachin Jain, the product strategist, Vinculum. Mr. Sachin Jain is a chief product strategist and research and development head at Vinculum, a global software company enabling multi-channel fulfillment for the e-commerce ecosystem. For over 15 years now, he has helped companies across US, Europe, Middle East, and Asia in devising product development and growth roadmap, as well as providing consulting for simplifying business processes. Welcome, Mr. Sachin. Next, we have Mr. Samad Kolkar, a business development leader for IBM iCloud. He's responsible for growing IBM Cloud business in India and South Asia with high focus on web, media, and entertainment and ITES industries. He is a part of core strategy team to develop SME ecosystem for SoftLayer, IBM's public cloud offering. His engagement extends to working with leading venture capitalists and investors, connecting them to high-potential startups to an early stage and developing a joint go-to-market for their portfolio companies. Mr. Samarth has a total experience of over 11 plus years in sales and marketing. At IBM, he has led multiple transformational deals in services with high focus on social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. Welcome, Mr. Samarth. Next, we have Mr. Shamik Sharma, the CTO of Myntra. Mr. Shamik Sharma is a Chief Product and Technology Officer at Myntra and heads the product management and technology functions. He is responsible for driving technology strategy and to build a high-tech culture at Myntra. Mr. Shamik has held key roles in several organizations and has over 15 years of technology experience. He has spent most of his career in the Bay Area and was a vice president software at Litro, a light field camera startup company founded in 2006. Prior to that, he has also held executive roles in RockU, StumbleUpon, and Yahoo. Next, we have Sujata Balakrishnan, the managing director, Valtech. Sujata Balakrishnan, MD of Valtech India, is an avid agile practitioner and hands-on leader with 34 years of experience in digital and technology industries. She has been instrumental in Valtech India's success as a high-value provider of digital services to some of the world's best brands. She manages Valtech India with P&L ownership of the unit with a strong workforce of around 450 plus consultants and delivers value to customers across USA, Europe, Australia, Asia, and Africa. Her portfolio of services ranges from developing customized solutions to providing experience to end customers of leading brands and retail, travel, banking, and financial services, and manufacturing domains through digital solutions in e-commerce content, mobile analytics, and social media. Welcome, ma'am. And finally, we have Mr. Vivek Venugopalan, co-founder and CTO, Fontaine Sports. Mr. Vivek Venugopalan, who's the co-founder and chief technology officer of Fantain Sports, is responsible for technology strategy and development of fan engagement and analytics assets for the firm. Fantain Sports provides sports teams and leagues the ability to improve fan engagement and bring predictable revenue across all their digital and physical touchpoints with the fans. He has over 20 years of technology and data strategy experience and was formerly the general manager for the retail and customer goods division at Wipro and has been advisor for the Fortune 100 retailers in their digital and online strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause for the moderator and all the entire panel?
So thank you for being here. Let me start off first with Shamik. Shamik, perhaps you could set the framework for the discussion. What are some of the latest technology trends that we are seeing today as in the field of, say, e-commerce and m-commerce? What are the latest things that are happening from technology point of view?
Yeah, I think there is no surprise. I would say there's two very big trends that are going on, not just in e-commerce, but in general. The first one is mobile. The number of people that are now coming onto the internet and becoming digital savvy because of the penetration of the mobile internet is the one very big trend. And the second one, we can talk about that later in the discussion, is analytics. How analytics is pervading not just e-commerce, but all businesses. And these two trends are really being transformative in how e-commerce especially is working. And we can talk about these two trends later on in the discussion.
Okay. So fine, I guess everybody has been talking of mobile analytics. Mac is the buzzword that everybody's talking about. Let's actually get down to some specific experiences that people had. I mean, we're talking of old versus new in terms of technology. Maybe Sujata, you've had experiences implementing technology solutions worldwide. Could you share with us some experience that you've had with specific companies, old and day traditional companies who've tried the digital transformation journey? What really happened?
Okay, good morning, gentlemen and ladies. I would like to really touch upon this customer of ours from European retail fashion, top brand. They have been having close to 500 stores globally, and they have a retail management system and which is meant for their point of sale in their stores. And the kind of spending they have done in the last 15 years, still it is really going very well. And definitely they wouldn't want to pull the system and then move on to just online, because if you really look at world over, the fashion brands definitely would like to have the touch and feel and have an in-store experience. Having said that, around 2006 and 2007, what they did as the first step is that to really get into an e-commerce, but they wouldn't really want to have a big bang approach on an online kind of an e-commerce. Instead, what they did is they would like to really have business to employee. So they did really, experimentation with two different e-commerce platforms, one being on business to employee. So they did that, and it took about 1.5 years to really come to a stage to really know whether that framework is really going to be helpful. On the other hand, they really took one simple system which is meant for my personalization. Because whenever you go and order or book an order in the store, if you really want to do a personalization, probably that could be done through online. So they took another e-commerce platform to really do this bit of it. And then they were looking at the pros and cons for a year also after putting this into use in terms of usability and user experience and also the technology, how it is really helping them. And then they concluded in terms of what is best suited for them to really get into their e-commerce journey for online, and which they narrowed down in terms of ATG and CQ5 and Flash as a combination for their backend and frontend. And they really traversed through for two to 3 years to really know, some of the thing what they did use for their front ending wasn't really suitable from an UI perspective because of certain problem around SEO related activity. So they have to really do a convergence in terms of really bringing in HTML5, CSS as a combination. After a while, now they are really launching on in terms of having a single experience in terms of using multi, right from web to mobile and then the social to really have a single channel so that they give an omni-channel experience across, and also in line with inline in-store experience, wherein that's very, very important for a brand of luxury. So this is a journey what they have done, and then they've taken all the best practices from their legacy AS400 RMS to the digital side, and now they are working backwards to really see how they can make their current legacy system to really give them the flavor of look-alike on the online channel as well. So that's a big project they are really doing, and they would like to call it as One Retail, and they really started spending on that. So the backbone is still remains in the legacy, but the rest of the activity around online and iOS and Android solution is going on, and definitely they are able to get at least 5% to 7% of the revenue coming from the online channel.
Yeah, thanks, Sujata. That was the experience of, say, a European retail chain. Samarth, why don't you share with us? I mean, most Indian businesses, even now, especially the small and medium enterprises, are largely family driven yet. So, why don't you share with us an experience of how a family run business would cope with the challenges of implementing technology and going on the digital journey?
Sure. Thanks, and good morning, everyone. So, just to kind of break the ice, Sunny Leon, Bipasha Basu, Varun Dhawan, and myself, we were all hired by the same company. So before you get any other ideas. So I'm talking about Mankind Pharma, a very traditional company started by a father who was in a typical medical representative kind of a business. Son comes in, he wants to transform the entire segment. He wants to move from being core pharma to more retail, and you would have seen a lot of their product lines which have come. So I remember this very interesting conversation which we had, and where we were told by the son that, I want to get, everything right from cloud. We want to get mobile. We want to get analytics. I want my guys who are out on the field to know everything what is happening. If I roll out a campaign, they should know at that very minute. So he said, very excited. I mean, somebody comes to us and says something like that. That's the best thing that we've ever had. So we got all prepared. We created a team of about 6-7 people, subject matter experts and everything. And then there was this huge conference room in which we walked in. There were 3 people sitting on the other side of the table, and typically, IT companies, they'll have 10 people on the other side. So that was us. And we made a strong pitch saying that mobile, this is the next thing. 80% of the people are going to use mobile, analytics stuff. And the father's sitting on the other side. So he looks at us, hears us. And somewhere down, about an hour or 2 into our presentation, he looks at us and he says, so tell me something. And this is in Delhi, okay? So he says, "Aap bechna kya chahte ho?" So we are trying to look at each other. What is it that we are actually going to sell now that we said mobile, analytics, cloud? So cloud was the first thing which was there on the table. So he said, सर हम ना वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए आपको वो जो सर्वर होते हैं वो बेचेंगे. अच्छा, डब्बे बेचेंगे आप. अच्छा, तो भाई मुझे एक चीज बताओ, अगर खादी बेचना है.
So I'm going to take your first question, which is essentially what are some of the performance challenges that you see, right? I'm trying to contextualize it to the topic discussion at hand, right? Legacy versus modern systems. I mean, every modern system out there is being built for scale. It's being built for internet scale, right? It's not really that when you go buy a SaaS product or a e-commerce product like a Hybris or a Magento, the product itself is built for scale. Now the question really is, how do you implement it? How do you get it rolled out? And more importantly, when you tie it back to a legacy system, which is actually probably designed not to handle that kind of an internet scale, how do you handle that problem? You see this typically with, say, let's say we are taking an e-commerce platform and we're actually integrating it with, say, a warehouse management system or a payment gateway. Essentially what happens is, I want to do an inventory lookup and show product availability information on my website. How do I do that? So what we essentially do is, you do it in a combination of business process changes and technology changes. The obvious solution is throw some caching, and I'm any techie, right? I don't need anybody in this panel to tell you this. Every developer will tell you we'll cache the data. The problem with caching the data is it's going to get stale at some point. So how do you deal with that? So what we do, especially in the inventory management side, is we create a reserve inventory to handle some of these data cache mishaps, so to speak, so that you can handle some amount of extra orders that come in for products that's not there. So you set your inventory reorder levels slightly higher to handle that problem and essentially take care of it. So in essence, the answer to your question is very specific to the the issue at hand. I gave you a solution for inventory management. So we have to look at each and every one of those data integration points and figure out what is the best approach. Can we change our business a little bit better? Can we change our technology a little bit better to do that?
Okay, I would just like to add, since we are really talking, the footprint in mobile, definitely performance play a very key role, and it cannot be done in a single day. So as some of our customers have really adopted, every quarter they do a major release where that includes some feature improvement, and when you do feature improvement, even the existing one which were really functioning well, definitely the performance degradation will be there, and they consciously look at performance optimization as a continuous one. It's not one time, and it is, again, if you really want to select the technology, though you know that some of the e-commerce really come with all the nuances, and the implementation strategy is very, very critical, where the technology partner play a major role to really give you examples of what would work in what situation, where you really see some amount of roadblocks. So performance is a key consideration for anybody. As you really have user experience really having to play a major role on the content and the creative side of it, definitely there could be performance degradation. So that point is very well taken while really giving a solution. The second part, in fact, we were discussing on this, definitely marketing budgets are going up, and the CMOs have got larger budget rather than the CEOs, and to the tune of even 20-30% more than what the technology could spend.
Yeah, so the second question, his question was about marketing. You've taken, somebody else wants to add?
So just to add to what we just spoke about, in fact, as you rightly highlighted, somewhere the line between the technology used for marketing and technology used for business, so-called the CIO function or the CTO function, is diminishing in today's time. So if you look at most of the organizations which may be in transportation, in food, in retail, there's a very strong technology backbone which has an impact which is directly on business. So without really having these two functions working alongside rather than against each other, which typically happens in traditional organizations as well, it would actually mean, or it would call for the death of the organization in a period's time. So it's very important to define the roadmap of technology from all the key stakeholders, not just marketing, I would say, but if it's a retail heavy kind of organization, then even the supply chain and demand planning also plays a critical role. So it's all integrated. At the end of the day, when we're talking about IT, it's more about the integration of the whole thing as a very strong backbone. I hope that answers.
Anybody? Yes.
So I have a question about what we just discussed, right? So I think Nicholas also mentioned in his opening speech that a lot of the times when you're trying to improve customer service, or you have a core offering which relies on a certain amount of data which is not already in place. I wanted to ask you a question about how you would deal with that. Would you then offer the customer that as a service and say, look, I can clean up the data for you, crawl the data for you, and then my core offering comes after that? So how would you deal with a situation like what you faced? Would you create that data for them, or would you revamp the offerings to adjust to that? I think any of you can answer that question.
So in India specifically, we have realized that offering technology doesn't lead to adoption of the technology. And eventually what happens, there's a servicing layer which has to be built around so that people can be enabled to use the technology. We have been seeing this even in case of e-commerce also. Like for example, all the marketplaces are going towards the sellers. They sign up on their own and they want. But eventually what happened? They have to introduce and enable channel partners who can really enable on the behalf of those sellers. So in India, do it yourself is not going to happen. And if your customer is looking for it, maybe for a temporary period, you have to enable a layer, a service layer, which can help them in using that technology.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Thank you. My name is Deepak Goyal. I'm co-founder of EasyDia. My question is specific to Shamik. Shamik, as you mentioned, two important things for e-commerce, mobile and analytics. I believe Myntra is the first company which is mobile only, not only in India, but I think in the entire world. I mean, working with the Googles, I've seen this. You guys are pioneered in that. My question is about, as you went from web to complete mobile, how content is impacting the strategy around the content creation that is being changed for your business, and what is your advice for the other businesses who is going mobile?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll make two, very broad points. Number one, I think a lot of people think mistakenly that mobile is just another channel to your store, right? That is absolutely not true. Mobile is as revolutionary a trend as the internet was to client-server technology or offline, right? So the way the whole mobile ecosystem works is extremely different than the way the web works. So people who pioneer and try to understand how mobile works have a significant advantage over the people who are not understanding how mobile works, right? So specifically to content, right? One example of how mobile is very different than the web is that content had always been thought about by organizations as an SEO function or an SEM function. I will write content, people will search for the content on Google, and then they will come to me, right? That does not work on mobile, right? Mobile, most people use applications. They do not search on Google or somewhere else. So the content has to serve a different purpose than it did on the web. That purpose means the content is no longer like SEO tricky kind of content where you're just trying to trick the user to click and come, right? The content that you write has to be genuine, has to be absolutely pertinent to the user's visit, and when the user reads it or engages with it, they have to feel like, wow, I got some value. It was funny, it was engaging, it's amazing, right? And that should drive them to come back on their own. So what this impacts on the content providers is that no longer is it about keyword stuffing and trying to put a lot of quantity. It is all about quality, right? So for Myntra specifically, when we are looking at fashion content, we have to rethink how we create content. What kind of content, how much. Videos, for example, are much more shorter, engaging, and relevant and personalized to the user. Similarly, I can talk about many other things that are different about mobile than the web. But this is just one example of how you have to think about every aspect of your business, for example, content, and say, okay, how is it different on mobile?
Yes, please.
We've seen in our experience, like coming up with a great user experience is a large challenge in India still today. My question to Shamik, how did you guys come up with a great user interface for Myntra? If you wanted to share some thoughts about it, or if you didn't face the challenge, that also is a good thing to know.
It's another very good question. It's something that's very actually close to my heart. User experience and user design as a function is, I think, highly underserved in India. Even trying to find a good user design person is extremely hard. I think much harder than finding a good product manager or an engineer. Because there are very few schools that teach it, very few people that have been trained in it, but most importantly, not those things, but that the people who are at the leadership level actually caring about it. What I have found is that if you as a leader actually care about the user design, right, a lot of things follow from that, right? And it just doesn't go into the way the product looks, right? Even in the way that behind the scenes our back-end products look, right? We care about every one of those, right? It's not just about how the Myntra app looks. It's about how the supply chain warehouse is. If you go to YouTube and you look at our office space, you will see that our office buildings, every corridor, the elevators inside, everything is beautiful, right? So it's not just about, okay, I find a user designer and then I'm going to say, okay, go build this good product, right? It has to be a part of your culture, and it has to be something that at the leadership level, everyone cares about day in and day out. Only then will that user designer feel respected and will feel that this is a place where I can innovate and create beautiful stuff.
Okay, one last question now, and then we'll come back to them, and then we'll come back for another set of questions.
Hi, good morning. I'm Samin. I'm the managing director for Meena Bazaar. One very interesting thing which you said was that you gave the example of the sun coming in, changing the generation of business. And I think I'm riding a similar wave where my dad used to run the business as Meena Bazaar as a traditional store. But I've come in and we've now established 4 stores. We've gone online. We are on Myntra. We are on multiple channels. Okay, but one of the things which I realized is because I had IT experience and IT background, I'm able to relate to this, and I exactly did what you guys have been speaking, where you ask somebody to do evaluation. I'm using Unicommerce, I'm using multiple channels because I'm aware of it. But for a traditional SME, it could be very intimidating to come with, to be faced with so many options that they are not sure where to go. They are already very threatened, I can tell you that. The whole of Commercial Street is threatened because of the online business. I mean, different segments. But they want to go online, they are not sure how to go. So my question would be, what is the opportunity you see for an aggregated platform which would provide all these different solutions which people are talking about for enabling e-commerce, social media, Unicommerce, and you have multiple things. What's the opportunity you guys see? Because that's something which is running in my head, which I'm playing really hard on. I just wanted to get your view on this.
Yeah, Manish, you should.
Yeah, hi. I think what you talked about, I envisioned it about 2-3 years back also. So I've been working with SMEs for long, almost like IndiaMart experience. So 15 years we have been working hard with SMEs. And the biggest challenge which we face that either they don't have options or they have too many options, and it's difficult to decide. So one of the things which you mentioned, yes, we need an aggregated platform plus a servicing layer which can actually guide, suppose I want accounting software. So these are the 4 options. You got Tally, you got QuickBook, you got X, you got Y. Now this is what you want to take, all SaaS-based, all subscription-based, and we'll provide you support and service for it. I think there's a dire need for this particular type of aggregator who can network across the country and offer this type of service, because SMEs do need this. And now we can see the technology. See, earlier we had legacy ERP systems whereby SME even never thought of going to ERP system because anything we talk about, whether SAP or anything, it is worth crores of rupees. Now the technology is affordable, it's accessible. Its only thing is the right guidance and right support which is required so that to choose the right product and use it to the perfection.
Yeah, so
I'd just like to add to that.
Sure.
You said that there is a threat perception in SMEs because they are not present online and they are feeling threatened by this increasing online presence of their competitors, right? For somebody, let's say in your case, you have an understanding of technology, but if let's say somebody is running his own business and he doesn't have somebody to guide him, first of all, e-commerce is not a threat. Any retailer should consider this as an additional channel, an additional opportunity. First of all, we have to change that perception in our mindset that this is a threat. It's not a threat, it's an additional opportunity. Agreed that some people do not have that understanding of technology and cannot take an informed decision on which technology partner to choose, what stack to choose. But this can be handled by taking these services or maybe hiring somebody who can help you in making this informed decision. Somebody who has that background. You can do it. If you don't want to onboard somebody, you can take it as part of a consultancy, a third-party consultancy who will do this groundwork for you, suggest what are the solutions available specific to your needs, and keeping in mind the long-term objectives or goals, which solutions are scalable, which solutions are integrated to various marketplaces, whether you have global ambitions or not. So if you have global ambitions, then it would be probably better advised to look for a solution which is connected to Amazon, eBay, and other marketplaces. So if somebody doesn't have this kind of awareness and he wants to take his business to the e-commerce train, then he'd probably be better advised to hire somebody or take some consultancy services. But definitely this is an opportunity not to be missed. Thank you.
You wanted to add something? Okay. So please keep any set of questions ready. We'll come back for another round from the audience. Let me come back to, yeah, Sujata, why don't we start with you? You said that organizations face a whole set of challenges when they undergo this digital transformation. What kind of challenges do they exactly face and how do they overcome it?
Primarily to start with, everybody feel that technology is a challenge. I would challenge that that's not a challenge. I would say the strategic or the visioning is the main challenge from the top leader. Primarily now, if you really have a lot of solution, as somebody said that, definitely online channel is not going to be kill the in-store and it go in that direction. It's more of augmenting. And if you really put your strategy first in terms of what you really want to do, what is the percentage of revenue you really want to get it from omni-channel, maybe with your aggregator or a marketplace or your own solution. So you could really have a vision, what is it you really want and what kind of solution and the timeline you are looking at. Mostly India is a very price sensitive market and definitely this question need to be answered from the top and then you can really see what is meaningful. And the next situation is that about the people dimension. We are really talking about a world where technology is not about everything. The UX or the UI is the main thing for you to really have a seamless experience from the exact audience of consumers. And most of the time, if you really see a mobile user is nothing but a teenager up to 25, 30 years, guys, where the personas are very, very important and what is the expectation is important. So the way you do a user design and user experience and the mindset which is really required to drive through all this stuff is more than a challenge compared to our technology area.
Yeah, so Sujata, I'm going to pick off from something that you said. Samat, maybe you should try this. So like she was mentioning, one of the key things that has changed is not just the technology, but the age of the consumer. I mean, that's been a far more dramatic change than the technology. And I think changes in technology are being driven by the dropping age of the consumers. Can you throw some light on that?
And absolutely right on that spot, And I mentioned it earlier, and my good friend from Meena Bazaar, he, kind of seconded my view also. So the change is happening at both ends, at the organizational side as well as at the consumer side. So just to give you an example, one of these leading Japanese brands who used to make the traditional VCRs and the audio devices, they have these string of resellers and distributors who are spread across India. And typically it was almost like a license raj even in their time, wherein one particular person in one particular city would get the, the dealership, so to say, for their entire place. What has happened is, over the last 15, 20 years, the second generation has come in. Now, they are the ones who are actually running the shop. And for them, any campaign which has to hit their end consumers has to hit now. So because of which, the push which is going back to the parent organization who owns the brand is tremendous. So they have to roll out technology, which again stitches us back to the original point which one of the gentlemen raised, that marketing and IT, they have become so integrated today that they cannot work without each other. They cannot be mutually exclusive. So whether it is campaigns, whether it is marketing tactics, whether it is the feedback from the consumers, it has all turned real time. Today, it's a prosumer attitude, which is a proactive consumer attitude, which is driving all campaigns and all marketing activities, and which is, in a way, challenging the way the technology which is run at the backbone also runs. So that's my point.
So, Sachin, why don't you extend what he was saying? So one of the challenges is, as you, consumers' age is going down, technology is changing, but as we have discussed so far, the fact is organizations continue to maintain the old legacy systems, and like Manish was mentioning, they're not going to go away tomorrow morning. How do you integrate the old and the new to deliver a seamless experience?
See, definitely the old systems are not going to go away because the traditional retail is not going anywhere. It will remain, it will survive, and it will in fact flourish. The e-commerce is just an extension. The core business is retail. You're just adding another channel. So what happens is you have to marry the old systems with the new systems or the new technologies that are coming in. Sometimes it's not so feasible to actually change or extend an existing system. In which case, the best approach is you build connectors to that system. You understand what are the data points or interchange points which are required to integrate with this system, and you build APIs or you build file-based data exchange to actually integrate all this information. Maybe you have a SaaS-based solution for your e-commerce application, and you have a legacy system wherein you do your merchandising. Now, this merchandising you would not want to repeat in your for your SaaS-based solution, right? What you can do is you can build connectors so that you still are doing your merchandising in your legacy system, but this merchandising information, this cataloging information is through a middleware passed on to your SaaS-based solution. Now, cataloging, for an example, it's very different for a brick and mortar kind of retail, and it's very different for an e-commerce kind of retail, because you need to add a lot more content to your catalog if you're selling online. Now, if probably your legacy systems do not support so much information against a product or an SKU, you would probably need to do these kind of enhancements in the middleware. So once the core product is defined in your legacy system, this will be transferred to your middleware, wherein you can add additional information as required. But still, these two systems must integrate, and that they can be integrated by building connectors.
So Vivek, I'm going to cue off from what Sachin mentioned about SaaS systems and legacy system. How are SaaS systems actually transforming legacy systems? Are they transforming, and if so, how?
Okay. Let me explain to you from my perspective in terms of what we are doing today, right? As I said earlier, the first and foremost thing that we did really is to launch a services business. So the services business really was not to generate new revenue, but really is to make sure our product is actually consumed and used properly in the customers that we are targeting. So it's not a revenue center. I mean, it does generate revenue, of course, but we've never designed it to be a revenue center, but more for making sure our product is actually used and doesn't become shelfware. The other things that we are looking at doing, right, is beyond the services. Now, when I come to a conference like this, I actually look for partners who are other SaaS providers who actually solve that integration problem for me. So if there's a way I can partner with them, so I can, when I go to my client, I can take them along with me and make sure that we can jointly solve the customer's problem, right? So I have a problem because I need the data to come into me, and here's a partner who can do that. So I would probably bundle all the costs and provide it as a single service to the customer. The third thing that we do is, can we extend our product to actually build some of these integrations? And that part is actually bundled for free because it's a problem I'm solving, it's really not a business opportunity. So can we actually bundle some of that, especially in the e-commerce world? Most of the e-commerce platforms are, at least the small to medium folks are actually Magento or, so a bunch of products, right? So can I build plugins in my product that I can integrate back into some of these e-commerce products? So the moment I know it's a Magento shop, I have a way to suck the data and get things going really fast. So that's the third thing that we are exploring, right? Fourth thing is, finally, both as a referral and also as a way, we actually let some of our customers talk to each other, right? So that when I go and say that, hey, customers here has the same set of backend platforms, and this is how they've solved the problem, why don't you talk to them? And I actually arrange for that meeting to happen. So when that happens, essentially, both I get a good referral because I've solved the problem, and hopefully I've opened a new account, right, with a new customer. So that's sort of some of the tricks and techniques that I do to help my customers transform their legacy platforms.
Manish, why don't you explain? See, there are different ways. You were talking of how the old will coexist with the new, but there are different phases in which the old first dominates and the new comes in. How do these phases merge with each other over time? And is there a set process, or it just varies from organization to organization?
So whenever there's a change happening or adoption happening in terms of technology in an organization, the first and foremost thing, what is required first is you need somebody from the top who is championing that technology. Because whenever you're going to introduce something new, there would be a lot of reluctance because people are averse to change. And if somebody believes strongly in that, then the change would definitely happen. There's no fixed structure for it, but yes, if I have to create that transformation, or I can envision the transformation happening, I would I would like to build lot of confidence around it. So there would be always a set of adopters who would volunteer and say, okay, fine, I'll take it up. And then eventually there would be fence sitters who would be adopting the technology, seeing the followers. And then after some time you realize that they coexist with each other and working in tandem with each other. But if you ask me if there's a set process for it or a certain timeline for it, no, I don't think so. There's a set timeline for it or process for it. I can give you an example for this. So mobile came into this country somewhere in 96, 97. And still, has landline vanished completely? No, it has not vanished completely. It still remains in certain pockets of it. But yes, mobile has definitely taken up. So this transformation might take 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, and maybe decades also. But transformation would definitely happen because that is going to open way for the next change to happen actually.
So if you people could keep your next set of questions ready, I'll come back in a minute. Yes, please.
So, just adding just a small point. I think the difference in the last 5 to 6 years is tremendous. If the same question was posed to us about 6 years back, probably the responses would have been strategically different. The reason I'm saying that is we had a set of organizations we would go out to if I was the end customer, I would go out to, maybe 5 large organizations, large IT organizations, and then there would be run-of-the-mill kinds who would probably be, very specific to my zone. But today, both this set of people or set of organizations have somewhere merged along. So today, I can go to the largest organization in IT and ask them for the same thing I'm asking from a smaller organization, because they have also transitioned from being a pure, let's say, a license seller kind of organization to a SaaS-based organization. So your level of experimentation as an entrepreneur itself has gone high. So you would want to experiment, and there's nothing called failure with regards to a particular application or a particular solution, because it probably doesn't blend into your business ethos at the end of the day. But the point is, the risk or the expense of that failure has gone down tremendously. So that's the point.
Okay. Shamik, you made a very interesting point, is the fact that mobile is not just another device or channel to actually access the internet, but it's a whole new revolution that's happening. You also mentioned changes in the way content is being written and produced and consumed because of the mobile revolution. Because of this impact of penetration of mobile devices, I think beyond content, there must be other changes that's happening in the technology area. So instead of saying, what are the technologies driving mobile, the question I'm asking you, how is mobile driving technology?
Yeah, I'll just broaden my question itself, right? I'll say that mobile is not just driving technology, mobile is driving the entire business, right? And I think we all have to look at what we do and realize that our customer base used to be people who are in the upper strata, people with laptops and stuff, right? Maybe out of the entire population of the world of about 7 billion, it used to be about maybe 500 million people, right? The mobile revolution has actually transformed that completely, right? So now it is everyone, all the time, right? That have now access to your service, whatever thing you're doing, right? And that fundamentally transforms how you think about how you approach the market itself. Let me give you a very concrete example of that, right? So before, when you used to do e-commerce and you wanted to shop, people used to think about it as almost like work. I will go to my desk, I will turn on my laptop, I will look at these screens, and then I will buy something. So it used to be a function, a job, or something that you are doing with a lot of intent, right? that's not how people look at e-commerce anymore. It is like almost engagement. It's window shopping, right? And I'm at a red light and my car is stopped. Oh, let me just open and swipe at 3 more products, right? Oh, okay, somebody else told me that they like this. I'm going to look at that product, right? Things of this sort. It's a very different kind of engagement and a very different kind of user experience, right? And also how it affects the business is dramatically different. So let me take an example of Meena Bazaar, for example, right? Great brand, great shops. The off-store experience, the offline experience is very beautiful, right? Now suddenly a company like that sees that instead of reaching whatever, hundreds of thousands of customers, now there's 300 million people in India who could be potentially Meena Bazaar customers, right? That could be, once you have that thought, there's 2 things you could do. You could say, okay, I'm going to extend my products into this channel. That's a channel point of view. The other point of view that you could also have is, wow, this market could end up being bigger than any market that I have ever attacked before. And you could say, I'm going to transform myself and go for that market instead of just extending it and thinking of it an extra channel, right? And if you look at how China has played out, it is not the offline players, retailers who have extended into online who have come and dominated. It has been a complete reshuffle over the last 6-7 years, and the people who have said, okay, I'm going to go for this new market and dedicate myself to that new market have become hundreds or thousands of times larger than the people who have either stayed offline or have tried to just straddle the boundaries, right? So I would say that look at this new market not as an extension. Look at it, you could do that, and you will extend your market by 20, 30, 50, 100%. But also to have the other possibility that if I completely leap into this new world, there is a potential 100x win that I could win, right? And that would be my, at least an ask of everyone in the market, that consider both the possibilities. Look at your risk appetite and see whether you want to do this or not.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay, so I'm not sure how many we can take, but certainly. Yep.
Hello, my name is Gokul from Tangamail Jewelry Limited. So my question is to pick up from where Mr. Shamik said, like, going from a brick and mortar store where, your market is limited, right, to the store area and everything. Now, going to online market where the market is potentially unlimited, right? How do you peg, like one of the, I would just like to say, like, how do you peg your ROI, return on investment? Because on online it's different. It's like Mr. Nicholas pointed out, it's just 2% of the conversion rate is there in the online. So how do you peg your ROI for your investment? Is it like, say, I'm going to bring 10,000 visitors to my website this month through this campaign and achieve that? And my second question would be, are there, I just want to know the different types of ROI, what all we should look for. And the second part would be like, are there any red flags that, we should look for in these particular types of ROI? Thanks.
So any of you wants to?
I can take it. So on the ROI basis, the web businesses have their own standard metrics for measuring ROI. How many customers came in, what was their conversion, what was their repeat visits, what was their ASP or their average selling price, and what was your cost of actually servicing the customer, and you play all of this, equations out and it works out. But I would say for a retailer, right, somebody as a supplier who's providing products, I would say those are all important, but those are not the main things, right? The main things are, number one, how many people came and interacted with your brand, right? On an offline store, the main benefit you have is that people are not just interacting with your product. You've also established a brand. When they walked into your store, you have a store presence, you have an internal visual merchandising, all of that. You lose a lot of that when you go online, right? So what you have to now look at is, if I just sold a product to somebody else and then they didn't think about me as Meena Bazaar, right? They didn't associate themselves with me. Then your value of actually selling that one product is minimal, right? What you have to think about is, how do you establish your brand connect with the end customer, whether they bought it or not? And you can do that through various ways. You can, for example, do it through content, which we talked about. You can do it by knowing your customers very well and targeting through an emailer, through notifications, through all of that. But the final metric that you have to look at is, over the course of, let's say, a month or a quarter or a year, how many customers thought about me? What was my brand connect? And what is the likelihood that because of this brand connect, they will come back and either search for Meena Bazaar or look at a product or something of that sort?
Added to that, probably you have a feedback mechanism through social media, wherein definitely that give you very subjective information about how the experience have been. Okay, that's very important. And actually you cannot quantify ROI in terms of monetary stuff immediately. It'll take for time, long time for you, but the conversion ratio, you can really keep it in mind and see how it is happening.
So let me just add to it. I can't resist this. It was a very nice question. And I don't need to be politically correct. I think offline retailers find out how much money they're making as far as their ROI is concerned. Online retailers look at how much money they're losing. That's their ROI. Any other questions? Yes, yes, that lady, please.
Hi, I'm Sanskriti. I actually had a question for all of you, because one thing I'm really struggling with is the Indian consumer and the psychology. You touched upon China and how the e-commerce space in China has evolved, and a lot of people compare India to China. But I'm starting to learn that's not necessarily the case, because India is a very exciting place to be for e-commerce with the culture. And just understanding psychology from your experiences, you know, COD is something that's very common over here, which is not practiced in a lot of other markets. So just wanted to get some insight from you on that.
So is your question related to COD specifically, or?
No, it's really more about the consumer behavior and what is so unique about the Indian customer. For example, jewelry is such a big thing in India. I always thought to sell diamond jewelry or gold jewelry would be a struggle for an e-commerce company, but that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
So I'm just trying to understand, like, what is it that you have found? Because you talked about a European fashion house that came in. Some of the struggles they have faced just to adapt to this culture in general and the customer.
Okay, since you talked about jewelry, I wouldn't really buy jewelry online, to be frank with you, 100 times, because it is the emotion and the buying experience which is very important. But I would have done all the work online, which includes, you know, to see the design and the comparative quote on different sites to really know, and also maybe I'll get into social media to know the service offering from you, and after sales how you guys have behaved, and also the kind of rate and plus in terms of making charges and other stuff, how you guys position yourself. So I will do a lot of research before coming in, but definitely the channel would help me from online to do all the R&D before I walk into definitely the shop. So I would really say that the consumer behavior of India, even on buying a branded t-shirt, most of the adults, the teenagers, or, you know, the 25, 30-year group, what they're doing is all the stuff when they are in a bus or moving in taxi to do all the stuff, the first thing in the morning when they come into office, probably they place the order online, because they would have done all the stuff, and probably they just walk into a store, to see the locator and then see which is good and then go and buy and take it home. So most of the time, it is really the prerequisite work, what they really want to do on a fashion or a jewelry, it will be very useful for them to do that activity.
And what about the European fashion house you worked with? I'm just curious to know what struggles they had.
In India, I don't have much of clue on the consumer behavior on Indian fashion.
Yeah, I can. Sorry, go ahead. I can add a little bit. We work with a lot of European brands as well. European brands are trying to come to India as well. There is, I think, a few years before their market is sizable enough for them to make a dent, but that market is developing. We also have to say that we shouldn't always think about something as good or bad. There is also a point of time at which it is good and a point of time at which a business model is effective, right? So, for example, luxury premium, it's a very big market in China. It does not really exist in India. But that doesn't mean that it will never be so, right? If you look at the journey that China took as well, if you look at the luxury market in China, it started out as being minuscule, but then it grew much faster than even the mid-market, right? So I would say somebody doing a luxury premium or Louis Vuitton kind of a brand in India would right now face a lot of challenges. 4 years from now, maybe not so. And I would say, by the way, I'll put the contrarian point of view here and say even for jewelry, right? I think people will be surprised at how well it will do in India. Not right now, right? But 3 to 5 years from now, right? And you can also already see that in the players that have started selling jewelry online. When you would look at them and your first instinct would be exactly like what Sujata said. I personally would not buy jewelry online today. But if you look at the growth curves of these people, Bluestone, Carrot Lane, and so on, they are doing amazingly well. And if you go and look at the customers and say, why the hell would you buy jewelry online? You get a lot of perceptive answers, right? For example, I'm in a small town and all the jewelers around me are cheats. I really needed this jewelry right now for a wedding that I need to go to next week. What would you do in that situation, right? And so on and so forth, right? You go and talk to the customers who wanted groceries, who wanted, to buy an expensive shirt, who wanted to buy the Louis Vuitton, right? And every one of them, what you will be surprised by is that there is a good, valid use case that we would have not thought about and would have been dismissive about.
Thank you.
I think the more questions, if you want to do that, or I can add.
I'd just like to add one more point on this. On the Indian consumer psychology, there are two aspects to it. Some of them are changing and some of them are not changing. So, by conventionally, Indian consumer has been more experiential consumer and a price-sensitive consumer. With the advent of e-commerce, what has changing is from an experiential consumer, he has become a more information-led consumer. But price sensitiveness still remains the same.
Yeah, Vivek, you wanted to say something.
Let me give you some insights that I have from sporting context, right? They're very different from, the regular e-commerce. So, predominantly male, right? That's the audience that we are looking at. Interestingly, between 18 to 23, the women is about 20%, and then it literally tapers down to 2 to 3%, number one. Second thing is extremely price sensitive and price conscious. So if I make a Nike t-shirt with a beautiful team logo, nobody buys it because you can actually buy it for 200 rupees right outside the stadium. Having said that, if I can bundle it and actually offer it along with a ticket and actually deliver it in your home with for your entire family, there's a lot of takers for that. The Indian population is looking for a complete package solution that is hassle-free. That's the biggest keyword. If you can make your solution hassle-free, you got a winner, period. So that's another thing. And they don't mind paying a premium for that. That's an important thing. I guess there's a lot of questions. I'm probably going to pause here and get audience.
Yeah, well, looks like I also have to pause because I've just been told that 15 minutes out of our session has to be cut. That's the bad news, and I see many questions. The good news is all these people are going to be available, so those who have questions, I suggest you stop there, go walk there, don't allow them to go out, ask them the questions there while they're available. I'm very sorry for this, but that's the way it is. Thank you.